Alcohol isn't just a drink, it's a spiritual decoy disguised as harmless fun. We've been conditioned to see it as a symbol of celebration, class, even relaxation. But what if this very substance, often reached for in joy or sorrow, is actually pulling you further from your true self? Across history, from sacred temples to neon-lit nightclubs, alcohol's presence is not what it seems. It doesn't just bring hangovers or health risks. It dulls your intuition, silences your inner guidance, and severs the sacred link to your higher awareness. Most people never question it. They follow the script. But you're not most people. If you're ready to see deeper beyond the illusion, subscribe now and join the journey. Drinking is often seen as a way to connect, to unwind, to feel more alive. But what if instead of waking you up, it's actually keeping you spiritually asleep, tricking you into thinking you're present while numbing the very parts of you meant to awaken? You weren't born craving alcohol. You were conditioned to desire it. Long before it became the symbol of modern nightlife and casual connection, alcohol was something entirely different. Its roots don't lie in bars or vineyards. They trace back to the ancient chambers of alchemists and mystics. Before it was poured into glasses, it was part of rituals older than any religion we know today. The word alcohol comes from the Arabic al-hul, originally a fine black powder used to darken the eyes. But in the language of ancient alchemy, alcohol had a deeper meaning, one tied to the act of distillation, the pulling of spirit from matter. Alchemists saw alcohol not as a beverage, but as a volatile force, the soul extracted from substance, unstable and potent. That's why we still call it spirits. It's not just poetic, it's literal. It's a clue hidden in plain sight. In ancient times, alcohol wasn't poured freely at parties or sold on every corner. It was treated with reverence, caution, and deep respect. It was believed to be capable of altering the soul, used sparingly in sacred ceremonies and rites of passage. It was never meant for careless consumption, because alcohol doesn't just shift your mood, it alters your frequency, disturbs your energetic field, and can open spiritual doors you may not be ready to walk through. The ancients knew this, but in modern culture, that wisdom has been buried beneath decades of marketing and normalization. What was once reserved for the initiated has become just another social routine, disconnected from its origins, stripped of meaning, and used in ways that silence the very spirit it once sought to release. However, the nature of alcohol has not changed. The only thing that has changed is our relationship to it. Because we have lost this awareness, in addition to being physically susceptible, we have also left ourselves spiritually vulnerable. Because regardless of whether or not you believe in energy, it will continue to believe in you. Regardless of whether or not you pay attention to your aura, the things you eat will still have an effect on it. And it is alcohol that leaves a mark more than most other substances. The Sumerians presented wine to their deities, the Egyptians associated it with Osiris, the deity of death and resurrection, and the Greeks presented it to Dionysus, the god of divine insanity and pleasure, because of his associations with alcohol. Even back then, people were aware that this drug was not only about pleasure, it had the power to either transport you or kill you. However, as time went on, this respect faded away and was replaced by hedonism. What was once a sign of spiritual transformation has become nothing more than another Friday night custom. It has lost its sacred edge. When something that was once sacred becomes casual, it becomes dangerous. Because there are some truths that are too controversial to be shared on this platform, we decided to create Insights Academy, a free newsletter in which we delve deeper into topics that we are not allowed to discuss on YouTube. In order to obtain a free copy of the Kabbalion, while it is still available, you can sign up by utilizing the link that is provided in the description. Not only is the legacy of alcohol much more complicated than our contemporary culture, but it is also much older. It has been utilized to call upon the gods to alleviate suffering, to dismantle ego, and to call forth visions. However, in the same way that it can open one sort of door, it can also close another kind of door. It's possible that you won't notice it happening. That is the issue at hand. A weaker sense of self, a little less clarity, and a little more numbness are some of the signs that it is coming. It does not arrive as a sudden explosion. Rather, it comes silently and subtly in the minute disconnections. Over time, this dulling will mount up to the point where you will forget what it was like to be fully awake, and you will begin to believe that the person you are under the influence of is the real you. However, this is not the case. It does not exist. According to what you've probably heard, alcohol has an effect on your brain, your liver, and your behavior. On the other hand, nobody discusses how it changes your energy levels. On the other hand, this is where the true damage starts beneath the surface, in the part of you that the majority of people don't even know how to measure. Not only are you made up of muscle and memory, this is your vibration. Your frequency is high. You are in your very essence a sphere of energy that is always moving, radiating, and receiving energy at the same time. When it comes to that particular field, alcohol causes interference in ways that science is just starting to comprehend. On the other hand, ancient spiritual traditions have been sounding the alarm for ages. There is one idea that is shared by all of the ancient esoteric systems. It is possible to refer to the energy structure that surrounds you as the aura, the biofield, or the light body. This structure is responsible for storing and expressing your spiritual vitality. In addition to guiding you and protecting you, this field also assists you in aligning with your higher self. The area where clarity, intuition, and purpose are kept is your unseen immune system, your spiritual filter, and the location where you keep your spiritual filter. In addition, drinking puts you at risk of losing it. It's not only that alcohol makes your mind cloudy, the result is the formation of small fractures, imperceptible tears, and gaps in your aura. Moreover, items are able to enter through those gaps. There are energies that are not yours to possess. The formation of thoughts that thrive on ambiguity, debris of emotions brought on by other people. It is possible that even beings who are drawn to the frequency of disconnection will experience it. No, this is not a fantasy. The trend is clear. It has been repeated, witnessed to, overlooked. There is a rationale behind why people frequently experience feelings of spiritual disarray, emotional instability, or a total depletion of their energy after drinking. There is more to it than just a lack of sleep or dehydration. It is the deterioration of the playing field, the destruction of the integrity of the energy. It is possible for the root chakra, which is the component of your energy system that is associated with physical pleasure and survival, to become overstimulated. As you become more in tune with the stuff, you are drawn toward more fundamental desires. By the same token, the crown chakra, which serves as your portal to higher states of awareness, becomes dulled, numbed, and obstructed. That's the deal with us. You have a momentary sense of vitality, yet you are disconnected on a spiritual level. Consuming more alcohol will result in a higher baseline level of that substance. And you are not given any warnings about this. No one will ever tell you that each time you pour yourself another glass of wine, you are not simply making a decision about how you want to spend your evening. You are choose how you will connect yourself with the world. When you drink alcohol, your body learns to ignore your intuition. The gut instinct is dulled as a result. By doing so, it substitutes performance for presence. It's possible that you sense a deeper connection with the individuals around you. On the other hand, what is actually taking place is the diminution of your energetic barriers. There is no doubt that you are more open, but not in a way that is therapeutic or that reveals information. You laugh more loudly, speak more quickly, and experience a greater sense of freedom. Your spiritual defenses, on the other hand, are weakened. To add insult to injury, the portions of you that ought to be protected are now exposed to everything that is going on around you. This sensitivity tends to become more severe with time. It is more difficult to meditate, and it is more difficult to have faith in your own thoughts. Your inner counsel is no longer being heard by you. In addition, you begin to believe that alcohol is the secret of your self-assurance, your inventiveness, and your sense of ease. However, that is just an illusion. These are not things that are produced by alcohol. It provides a momentary reduction in the noise that is obstructing them. On the other hand, it generates additional noise of its own. At the same time, the silence that you were searching for is buried even deeper. It was never intended for you to feel complete without the presence of a substance. That concept was ingrained in you, sold to you, and reinforced to the point where it turned out to be the truth. However, this is not the case. What is the actual truth is this. Each time you consume alcohol, you are doing more than merely bending your body. You're twisting the frequency of your sound. You are shifting away from your higher self and moving away from alignment. The more frequently you engage in this behavior, the further you will stray from the path. Instinctively, this is something that certain individuals feel. They report that after drinking, they do not feel right, that something is off, and that they are unable to precisely identify what it is. In no way is that a deficiency. It is awareness that is attempting to communicate with you through the fog, attempting to convey that your energy field, which is the most precious aspect of you, is requesting to be safeguarded rather than punished. In addition, the question is, are you paying attention? It is the act of drinking that opens the door. Do you have any idea what you're allowing to come in? Almost everyone does not. Due to the fact that they have only been told half of the narrative, which is that alcohol reduces inhibitions, has an effect on coordination, and makes you experience relaxation. However, the reality is that what is taking place behind the scenes is significantly more complicated and significantly more deadly. Mostly due to the fact that once your aura is damaged, once the protective field that surrounds your energy body is disrupted, you become subject to more than simply emotional uncertainty. You open yourself up to the possibility of being influenced by forces that thrive on your loss of connection. For a very long time, numerous old traditions, ranging from shamanic to hermetic to spiritist, have advised against this thing. Alcohol does more than only change your state of mind. It can open up opportunities. Access is created as a result. It is important to note that not everything that enters through those channels has your best interests in mind. They were referred to by Steiner as subnatural entities. The term astral larvae is used by some. They are sometimes referred to as parasitic beings or obsessive spirits by other people. Although the names are different, the pattern remains the same. Confusion, fear, addiction, and spiritual detachment are all sources of nourishment for non-physical forms of evil. Moreover, drinking by its very nature makes you more approachable and more susceptible to persuasion. Think about the times you've witnessed someone get so intoxicated that they passed out. The look in their eyes, the void, the unpredictability, and the disappearance of the person you previously knew are all things that you should consider. It's not just a matter of being drunk. There is a dissociation of the spirit. In its place, the light becomes less bright and something else begins to animate the body. Perhaps not to the fullest extent, maybe not all the time. However, enough is enough. Sufficient to behave without being aware of it, to the extent that it causes karmic damage, to the point where you forget what you accomplished. After that, you could be wondering why you don't feel like yourself anymore. There is a rationale behind the prevalence of alcohol in narratives that feature violent acts, forms of abuse, or total personality transformations. It is not merely a psychological issue, there is vigor in it. It is possible for something else to take the lead when the genuine self takes a step back. The energy that you give out when you are intoxicated performs the function of a beacon, particularly when it becomes habitual. This sends a signal to whatever is in the world. I am not closed off. I am shielded from harm. There is no longer complete control over me. In addition, the majority of individuals are completely oblivious to it. It is not always the case that these forces appear contrary to what you might watch in a horror movie. Patterns, ideas, and urges are common ways in which they manifest themselves. You believe that the need to drink once more is nothing more than a routine. However, what if it is being subtly communicated to you? Is it fed to you? Someone or something that takes advantage of your separation has pushed their way into your emotional field. You are not required to have faith in these entities. All that is required is your permission. Additionally, drinking is a form of permission. Permission is granted, rather than in the sense of the law, in the sense of energy itself. They enter after you have opened the door. In addition, they remain for a longer period of time than the hangover. The purpose of this is not to frighten you. In order to demonstrate to you how serious the spiritual ramifications actually are, this is being done. Because when we continuously numb ourselves, we not only begin to lose present, but we also begin to lose our sovereignty. When this happens, it becomes more difficult to make a clear decision about our future and to stay in alignment with the more elevated aspects of who we are. When we are more reactive, more suggestible, and less discerning of what is actually ours and what has been placed there, we become more susceptible to being influenced. Because of this, numerous spiritual teachers and mystics have always cautioned against intoxication. They have done so not out of a sense of moral judgment, but rather out of an awareness of how energy performs its functions. They knew what we had neglected to remember, It is necessary to remain vigilant in order to preserve spiritual clarity. Anything that dims the light invites the darkness, even if it's only in a subtle way. Moreover, hiding or fighting is not the means by which one can truly defend themselves. To do this, one must maintain a profound and intense presence. One's presence serves as a protection. You are the sword of clarity. Without your awareness, nothing can take control of your thoughts or energy when you are in sync. On the other hand, when you drink, you give up your sword for a smile, and you drink a shot glass instead of a shield. In exchange for sensation, you give up your sovereignty. You end up losing more money than you make in that particular trade. The price is not merely a source of frustration or sorrow. Your inner compass, your intuition, and your connection are all at play here. There is no discussion of this topic since it is perceived as being too peculiar and too unsettling. However, if you have ever woken up after a night of drinking and felt empty, heavy, or as if something strange had brushed against your soul, then you are already aware of this fact. You are aware of it. Moreover, the sensation is the evidence. Alcohol is very astute. Because of this, it contains a high risk, mainly due to the fact that the trap is constructed not on pain, but on pleasure. The warning label that states that this will pull you further away from your essence is not attached to it when it is delivered to you. The garments that it wears are those of ease, humor, and comfort. This provides a momentary reprieve from the stress, the noise, and the burden that comes with being human. This is the illusion, by the way, simply because it provides a sense of relief for a brief period of time. You have a lighter, more confident, and more connected frame of mind. The social anxiety reduces and the tendency to overthink things decreases. And all of a sudden, you're in the zone. You are able to express what is on your mind. You went overboard. You have a sense of vitality. And you think to yourself, this is who I really am, for a brief minute. But what if it isn't the case? Consider the possibility that what you are feeling is not the liberation of your true self, but rather the disappearance of your awareness. Getting drunk does not set you free. It dulls your senses. The internal noise is silenced not by resolving it, but rather by muting the signals that are being sent out. Anxiety, fear, and uncertainty are all present. Indeed, those are messengers. The areas in which you are misaligned, where you are retaining tension, and where you have betrayed your truth are all being communicated to you by them. It is impossible to pay attention to those messengers when you are drinking. You force them into the corner, and then you choose to dance in the silence that they leave behind. However, the silence is not serenity, rather it is repression. In spite of this, the illusion is successful because it is quick. For example, it does not need you to engage in introspection, do breath work, or sit with your shadow. You will see results in a matter of minutes. When you are worn out by life, by your thinking, and by the sheer weight of pretending that everything is okay, the feeling of freedom that comes from moving quickly is unmatched. However, this is not the case. It is a debt with a high interest rate that you are paying back with your energy, clarity, and trust in yourself. For the reason that each time you reach for the bottle in an attempt to feel better, you are reinforcing the notion that the genuine version of yourself is not sufficient, that you want an external substance in order to unlock what is already present within you, and that you must be transformed in order to be worthy. The fact that alcohol might temporarily open you up is what makes the situation more complicated. Moreover, it has the ability to break down barriers, boost emotional expression, and reduce fear responses. Because of this, spiritual seekers, creative people, and those with broken souls are drawn to it in large numbers. It gives the impression of being a path to transcendence. You are not, however, gaining access to a higher level of consciousness. Lower resistance is the result. However, you are not connecting with the divine. It's simply that you're turning down the volume for a short enough period of time to hear what has always been there, and then you forget about it by morning. The brutality of it is exactly that. You are given a glimpse of something that is real, and then it is taken away from you. It makes you feel more disconnected as a result of its promise of connection. It is a source of independence, but it requires dependence. First, it reveals to you the version of yourself that is unrestrained, expressive, and calm, and then it convinces you that the only way to restore that version of yourself is to consume alcohol. So you decide to return, not out of happiness, but rather out of a desire to satisfy. In addition, the drink itself has nothing to do with the desire that you have. It's the desire to recollect who you are, to experience completeness, and to let go of any inhibitions. Alcohol simply takes advantage of that want and then sells it back to you in the form of a glass. No, we do not have an addiction to alcohol. We are addicted to the sensation of being ourselves when we are not ashamed of who we are. Furthermore, we have lost how to get there without numbing the parts of ourselves that are afraid, broken, or misunderstood at the same time. It is not the booze that we desire. We need to have the bravery. We would like to have authorization. In a world that constantly tells us to perform, we want to experience and feel something that is genuine. Moreover, alcohol is a solution that comes into play. On the other hand, it is a fake. Having a hangover is not a prerequisite for genuine freedom. Even after the excitement has subsided, genuine connection does not disappear. Real confidence, on the other hand, does not necessitate that you sacrifice your clarity in order to reach it. Since it provides you with precisely what you require, even if it is only for a brief period of time, the illusion is convincing. Following that, it disappears, leaving you in need of it once more. That does not constitute healing. That is, in fact, a celebration that is disguised as reliance. And if you've ever wondered why, after a night of drinking, you feel a little more hollow than you anticipated, this is the reason why you feel that particular way. Mostly due to the fact that something genuine attempted to emerge from within you, but it was then immediately submerged in the flood of synthetic sensation. At the bottom of a bottle, your essence is not waiting to be discovered. Beneath your anxiety, it is waiting for you. Below the surface of your narrative, the concept that in order to have joy, you must rely on something that is external to yourself. No one is born with the desire to drink from a bottle, the desire to eat, a feeling of attraction to drinking. It is not a natural want. The term is programming. From the time you are a child, the world around you starts educating you that drinking is not only acceptable, but also necessary. You drink in order to rejoice. You drink in order to relax. For any feeling, whether it be grief, connection, or escape, there is a beverage that can help. Eventually, it becomes into a script that you follow without even being aware of it. A routine that is so firmly ingrained in the fabric of your life that anyone who questions it feels like they are rebelling against it. However, that is not a coincidence at all. That is the design. Since the time you were old enough to be able to watch, you have been aware of it. Perhaps it was the adults who were sitting at the dinner table raising their glasses throughout the time that the children were drinking juice. Perhaps the characters in your favorite movies relaxing with a glass in hand after a long and trying day were the ones who inspired you. It may have been the party scenes, the music videos. It could have been the advertisements that were full of laughter, sex appeal, and confidence, all of which revolved around the bottle. A significant amount of time had passed before you took your first sip of the beverage. This is the behavior of adults. It appears that freedom is like this. What it's like to have fun is like this. When you reach the age where you are legally allowed to use alcohol, the behavior is already well established. It is common, anticipated, and even anticipated to occur. When you put up a fight, you have the impression that you are the one who is out of sync, the awkward one, and the tough one. Because the system does not only sell alcohol, it also sells the concept that drinking is a cultural norm, a badge of belonging, and a rite of passage for all those who participate in it. For many people, declining the drink is the same as declining the connection that comes along with it. And this is the brilliant way in which the programming is designed. It gives the impression that conformity is a choice. However, there is a more subtle layer at work beneath the surface of all of that marketing, all of those festivities, and all of those things that include clinking glasses. Alcohol not only helps you avoid confronting the pain, but it also helps you conceal it. And this road of avoidance is laid out at an early age in a society that discourages emotional depth. You learn to repress your feelings, not to feel too profoundly, and to maintain your functionality. People tend to view emotions as inconvenient and vulnerability as a sign of weakness. The feeling of salvation that you get when you find something that alleviates the harshness of your internal world and softens the edge of your discomfort is a feeling that you get when you discover something. The vast majority of people are unaware of the fact that suppressing one's emotions is not a natural, but rather a learned behavior. And once you have mastered it, you will search for tools that will help you keep it up to date. The consumption of alcohol is among the most socially acceptable of these. It is not necessary for you to explain it. The need to justify it is not necessary. A simple pour a sip, a giggle, and then you move on. When you take it more frequently, however, your nervous system will begin to depend on it more and more. The more your identity is intertwined with the sensation that it gives you, the more you lose how to sit with discomfort. You lose how to find delight on your own without assistance. The fact that you were once able to feel profoundly and completely without the assistance of a substance is something that you frequently forget. This is something that the industry is aware of. Alcohol is not the only product they sell. They also sell dependency. With a strategic and alluring approach, the advertising is not done at random. It's an assault on the nervous system. Emotional associations can be created through the use of colors, music, and slogans, all of which operate together. A bottle of whiskey by the fireplace, a bottle of champagne at the wedding, and a bottle of champagne outside in the warm summer sun. This is not merely a collection of pictures. Rather, they are emotional triggers and reinforcements. They give you the impression that you are losing out on something if you do not take part in it. Just as sobriety is a state of emptiness, and stillness is a state of boredom. However, it is a falsehood, an exquisitely packaged deception that ensures billions of dollars continue to flow into the system each year, while your vitality, clarity, and connection continue to seep out in the background. One of the reasons why this programming is so potent is because it conceals itself behind love, behind friendship, and behind extended family. For the sake of bonding, celebrating, and showing affection, people bring you drinks. I get a sense of intimacy. However, it is a systemic problem. Due to the fact that they were also conditioned, your parents, your peers, and your mentors did not question it either. Also, they did not question it. The reason for this is not that they are weak, but rather that the programming is so profound. It is not just your narrative. It is a story that spans generations. It is because of this that breaking away feels so challenging. When you challenge a habit, you are not only attacking a habit, but you are also challenging a collective belief system. In order to relax, to connect with others, and to feel complete, you need to have a drink. However, you do not. And within you, there is a part of you that is already aware of that. There is a portion of you that recalls who you were before the world began telling you to numb to cope and to conform to the norm. There is still a portion of you that survives. We are waiting, looking over, all set. Warnings were always there in the event. It is concealed in plain view. These principles were woven within the ancient teachers' teachings. Sacred texts are those customs that have been largely forgotten or diluted down by modern time and society. There is a consistent message that reverberates from east to west across peoples and countries and across centuries. Safeguard your mental clarity, because clarity is the pathway that leads to the truth. Moreover, the truth is the way to achieve freedom. Moreover, drunkenness is the single most effective way to diminish that clarity. The pursuit of higher realms of consciousness is based on the Bhagavad Gita, which emphasizes the need of maintaining purity in one's thoughts, body, and intentions. The attribute of sattva, which is harmony and light, is considered to be necessary for the advancement of one's spirituality. The energy of darkness, lethargy, and bewilderment is referred to as tamas, and alcohol does not come under this category because of its destabilizing effects. The beverage does not make you feel better. Your body will get more dense as a result. It muddles the waters of perception, making it more difficult to differentiate between what is genuine and what is not real. The question is, how can you ever genuinely wake up if you are unable to recognize what is real? Buddha issued a direct warning against alcoholic beverages. It wasn't because he wanted to maintain control over pleasure. Rather, he was aware of the influence that pleasures have on the mind. A haze of intoxication obscures the way. It reduces one's level of awareness. In addition, suffering worsens when there is no awareness. Being present is necessary for the Eightfold Path, which includes correct speech, right action, and right intention. It is also weakened by alcohol. You could experience a sense of independence in the present moment, but it is a fictitious freedom. There is no freedom in this. Sedation is what it is. Alignment with the Tao, which is the inherent flow of the universe, is the subject of the Tao Te Ching, which is a text that is both peaceful and powerful. To move with equilibrium, elegance, and inner quiet is what it means to follow the Tao tradition. But drinking causes you to lose your equilibrium. Extremes are drawn to you as a result. The artificial highs that it produces cause you to become disconnected from the rhythms of your intuition. When you are not in harmony with the Tao, life has the potential to become a struggle for you. You coerce, you run after, and you endure pain. The tranquility that you are looking for grows further away. These cautions can be found even within the Christian religion. When you go beneath the rituals and symbols, you will find that saints and mystics frequently preached about the necessity of vigilance, of remaining awake and spiritually sober, and of protecting the heart and mind from anything that could lead you to excess or forgetfulness. St. Augustine made the observation that drunkenness is a form of self-abandonment, a severing of the connection between the soul and the source, and a surrender that is not done out of devotion, but rather out of escapism. The teachings of Islam are more straightforward. Alcohol is forbidden or haram in Islam. It is not because of its higher morality. Rather, it is because of the chaos that it causes to be released within the soul. Within the framework of Islamic mysticism, the human body is regarded as a temple, a receptacle of divine faith. In addition, a breach of trust occurs when you modify your state of mind through the use of drunkenness. The issue is not one of control. The topic at hand is the sacred responsibility. There are two distinct functions that alcohol fulfills in the Hermetic and alchemical traditions. Because of its ability to extract essence, it is highly regarded as a solvent and a cleansing force. On the other hand, it is dreaded since the substance that it extracts is not always light. This has the ability to dissolve clarity as well as ego. The alchemists were aware that intention was the most important factor. The right application of a chemical can make it a teacher. When it is used carelessly, it turns into a trap. The razor-thin line that separated change and destruction was something that they were aware of. Nevertheless, at some point in time, these lessons were watered down somehow. Wine at the altar, toasts at weddings, and Dionysian rapture are all examples of symbols that modern culture has chosen to emphasize, but it has ignored the wisdom. We did not lose the profundity, but we did keep the aesthetics. The sacred substances were reduced to social tools, and we began to refer to spiritual numbness as something that was enjoyable. When you question alcohol, the culture tells you that you are being stiff, and when you refuse it, you are isolating yourself on your own. Nevertheless, the spiritual traditions have a contrary view. It is not considered a sign of shame for the seeker to decline intoxication. In a world that is addicted to escape, they honor them because it is an act of dedication to maintain one's composure in that environment. When it came to your own soul, it was never about laws. It was never about a deity. Since the beginning, it was all about resonance, about maintaining a frequency that was high enough to maintain connection. To add insult to injury, drinking lowers that frequency. Although you might not immediately recognize it, your spirit is aware of it. The clarity of your dreams decreases. The prayers you offer seem far away. The act of meditating becomes difficult for you. That is not a happenstance at all. As a consequence, that is. However, honesty is a prerequisite for the spiritual path, even though it does not need perfection. And if you are truthful, you will be able to see it. Alcohol consumes more power than it provides. In spite of its promise of transcendence, it brings about bewilderment. It creates the illusion of togetherness, but it keeps you apart. In addition, the cost of such misunderstanding is excessively high in a world that is in dire need of more light, more presence, and more awakening. In the same way that alcohol leaves a legacy on your physical body, it also leaves an imprint on your energy. Damage, however, is not the conclusion of the story. Energy is not a standstill. When the appropriate conditions are met, it is fluid, intelligent, and capable of the ability to self-correct. All that has been broken up can be put back together again. A dimmed light can be brought back to life. Both a bottle and a prescription are not necessary for the healing process to take place. When you make the conscious decision to recall what alcohol caused you to forget, you will realize that you already possess the necessary tools. That has always been the case. Simply being present is the first step. When you return to your body, you should do so not as a means of escape, but rather as a process to honor. In order to be present, no effort is required. Permission is necessary for this. It is a permission to feel, to observe what has been numbed, and to sit with the discomfort that alcohol was protecting you from. That unease is not meant to be your adversary. It is your transmission. It is revealing to you the areas in which you have neglected yourself. This is a request to be heard, not to be silenced. When this occurs, healing transforms into a discipline. Rather than a quick remedy, a recalibration is required. Meditation is a practice that helps re-establish the natural rhythm of the mind, which in turn brings you back into coherence. Breathwork is a technique that helps your nervous system transition from a state of survival to a one of regulation. For each conscious breath that you take, you communicate to your body, I am here now. I am not in danger. We are no longer going to be running. Nevertheless, the mending is more than just a matter of mental cleanliness. Also in need of regeneration is your electromagnetic field, also known as your aura. The reason that practices such as Reiki sound healing and energy cleaning are effective is that they do more than merely calm your surface. They adjust the frequency of your vibrations. A repair is made to the tears. They secure the apertures in place. They restore the purity of your energy to its original state. It could appear to be unassuming or even abstract, but when you actually experience it, you will notice a change. You will sense the space coming back to you. It will feel as though the parts of you that were dispersed are beginning to come back together again. There is also the powerful ally of yoga. It is not only the stretching or the poses that it facilitates, but also the unification that it brings about between the breath, the body, and awareness. It brings your physical and energetic systems into alignment. Your inclinations are rewired, and the restlessness that you wanted to escape is gradually dissipated under its influence. You start to restore a relationship with your body that is not based on punishment or avoidance, but rather on trust, and this relationship comes about with each movement that you make. In addition, nature plays a position. Time spent in the woods by the water or beneath the open sky is one of the few things that can purify your field as rapidly as it can. In no way are these luxury. These items are medical. Your rhythm is reset as a result. They put an end to the commotion. They are able to replicate the initial signal, mainly due to the fact that when you completely submerge yourself in natural frequency, you are able to recall the sound of your own frequency. It is not a chaotic situation. No, it is not an emergency. There is yet hope. He is calm, stable, and complete. There is also the power of intention, which is unassuming and frequently underappreciated. Consideration, willpower, and free will all have an effect on your field. When you make the decision to heal yourself, you start to rearrange your reality so that it is more in line with that frequency. You begin to become aware of the individuals, the practices, and the insights that are supportive of your path. The degree of synchronicity rises. When resistance is reduced, it is not a miracle. Alignment is the key. In addition, it starts when you make the decision that you are finished avoiding yourself. The process toward recovery is not about feeling ashamed. It has nothing to do with attaining purity or perfection. There is a need to become conscious. As a result of this realization, you begin to recognize alcohol for what it actually really was. In other words, a teacher, not a failure. One that demonstrated to you what things do not function. One that brought to light the aspects of yourself that are still searching for compassion rather than sedation to be met with you. You do not need to feel regret for the past in order to let go of it. Simply said, you need to refrain from repeating it. And as soon as you accomplish it, an amazing event starts to take place. Your dreams will become more distinct. Your intuition becomes more acute. Instead of coming from a crazy high, your creativity begins to flow again, but this time it comes from a deep well of truth. You find that you are able to laugh without the need to be intoxicated, that you are able to connect with other people in ways that are genuine, that you are able to feel emotions to their fullest extent, and that you are aware that these feelings will not break you. What does it look like when healing occurs? Presence, not perfection or control, is what is required. The capability of remaining with oneself throughout all states and all seasons, without the urge to flee from oneself through escape. Additionally, your energy field starts to hum once more in a gradual and gentle manner. This buzzing sound is your signal. That's how you position yourself. It is your whole essence that is coming back. Getting to the bottom of a bottle is not the way to find freedom. It is not at all in the commotion, the confusion, or the surge of self-assurance. The trick is to do it. Alcohol masquerades as a means of achieving freedom. It makes the promise of liberating the portions of you that are feeling confined. However, it never provides you with the key. It gives you the impression that you are one. Moreover, while you are pursuing that illusion, you are missing out on the reality. However, you were never the cage. The presumption that in order to feel complete, you must have something that is external to yourself was the cage. Alcohol has been taught to you by the world to be synonymous with freedom. The loosening of your tongue, the fearlessness, the euphoria, and the laughter are all signs that you are making progress toward becoming your true self. However, this is not the case. That version of yourself that only manifests itself when you are under the influence, your very nature is not like that. This is your way out of the jail. You are not hiding behind inhibitions. You are the genuine you. It is awaiting awareness behind the scenes. However, awareness is a difficult task. Because of this, you will have to sit through the discomfort. Alcohol makes it easier to avoid. Furthermore, we have been instructed to avoid any and all forms of discomfort. Therefore, we consume alcohol. We become numb. We seek out situations that mimic connection in the hope that they may include a more profound level of connection. However, they do not. They move in close proximity to it, ignite a spark, and then vanish. As a result, you are left searching for the next night out, the next celebration, and the next moment in which everything feels lighter once more. However, it diminishes more quickly with each passing moment, due to the fact that you are not getting any closer to yourself. You are progressing all the way. Having a hangover is not a prerequisite for genuine freedom. Memories are not clouded, and boundaries are not muddled as a result. There is no way that it will cause you to second-guess your choices in the morning. The true meaning of freedom is the realization that you can enter any room at any time without having to change who you are in order to fit in. To be able to feel fully is what it means. Happiness, sadness is present, tension is present. Let go of it, as opposed to frantically trying to stifle it. To be able to trust your own body, your own energy, and your own truth without the need for a filter is what it means to have this ability. Give it some thought. Substances are at the center of a significant portion of our festivity. Both joy and intoxication have been confounded by us. Our understanding of what it means to rejoice from presence rather than flee has been lost. Imagine being able to dance without having to first consume alcohol. It is not because your borders are blurred that you are laughing until your chest hurts. Rather, it is because you are authentically open. Imagine an intimacy that does not involve lowering inhibitions, but rather emerges from a true connection between the two of you. That's the truth. That belongs to you. And when you finally give up on the pursuit of the synthetic version, a surprising achievement occurs. Your baseline will increase. Something that used to feel boring or empty now feels full or complete. Not the frail sort of sensitivity, but the intuitive kind of sensitivity you have returned. You become more aware. More is felt by you. And what used to feel overwhelming to you now serves as a guidance. You are not running away from life. Rather, you are living it completely. Wake up at your discretion. No one ever brings up the subject of freedom like that. When you no longer have to borrow joy, rent confidence, or manufacture connection, you will experience the freedom that comes with this realization. The liberation that comes from not having to change your status in order to feel like yourself. The liberty to be radically present, radically clear, and radically authentic for oneself and others. Not that this is about becoming monotonous. The goal is to achieve complete dominance. You are still able to celebrate, connect with others, and create experiences that will live long in the memory. Now, however, they originate from within. They are now firmly situated. At this point, they are durable, mostly due to the fact that they are founded on anything that is true. Indeed, this is maybe the most potent aspect of the whole thing. Keep in mind that every single thing, the discussions they had, it is the sensations. These are the realizations. Carry them with you at all times. There is no misunderstanding. There is no fog. There is no regret. Just you awake in the here and now and firmly rooted in your own truth. The reason you no longer require alcohol is not because you are attempting to abstain from it, but rather because you have grown out of the need for it. It does not correspond to your frequency anymore. It no longer provides anything that you are unable to provide for yourself. After some reflection, you come to the realization that the version of yourself that you once pursued in a drink has been with you the entire time, patiently waiting, quietly watching, and is now fully free. The topic of alcohol has never really been a focus of this journey. It was only a sign, nothing more. This is the substitute for all of the ways that you have been instructed to reduce your size, for the sake of hushed intuition, so as to dull your awareness. Every time you grab for a drink in the hopes of experiencing something different or becoming someone more courageous, what you were actually doing was trying to relive a memory of what it was like to be complete for the first time. Moreover, that recollection was never lost. After that, it was buried. The use of alcohol is just one component of a much broader web, a network that is intended to keep you isolated from your core identity. Due to the fact that a person who is able to recall who they are does not conform to the norm, what they are told they require, they do not purchase. Things that are harmful to their body and dull their spirit are not something that they look for affirmation in. They become unmistakable and transparent. The presence of such clarity poses a danger to systems that are constructed on uncertainty. Now ask yourself, who stands to gain from your continued fogginess? When you believe that you require a drink in order to relax, to interact, to be lovable, or to be free, who benefits from this? It is irrelevant to the system whether or not drinking helps you cope. The only thing that matters is that you continue to return for more, namely that you never take a moment to pause and recognize that you do not require it. It is important that you maintain a level of numbness that allows you to avoid asking more profound questions about your purpose, your pain, and your power. Once you see through the illusion, there's no going back. That's where true change begins, not through guilt and not by willpower alone, but through awareness, through truth. The reality is, you hold far more power than you were ever taught to believe. You don't need alcohol or anything external to feel whole. Peace, connection, joy, and strength are already within you. They always have been. This path may not be celebrated by the world. At first, as you step away from the rituals you once shared with others, you might feel alone. But isolation is not the same as solitude. Something new is stirring in that space. You begin to hear yourself again. You start trusting the signs. Your dreams become clearer. Your body softens. Your energy grows magnetic, not because you're trying, but because you're aligned. And you are not alone. More and more are waking up, breaking the script, and releasing the substances, stories, and habits that kept them numb. We are not just healing, we are remembering. Reclaiming the clarity that was always our birthright. The more you return to your natural state, the more you realize this is freedom, not escape, embodiment. The kind of truth they don't teach because it can't be packaged or sold. Clarity cannot be marketed. It can only be lived one breath at a time, in presence with courage and devotion. If you've made it this far, you're already feeling the call. That inner knowing that says you're ready, not to be perfect, but to be real. To stand in your truth, to own your authority. Don't let that voice fade again. Your clarity is worth more than temporary comfort. You don't need permission to live from your center. You've already spent enough energy hiding from it. It's time to return home. If this video resonated, leave a comment below. It made sense to me. And remember to subscribe. This is only the beginning.